I am just God is so good. That's all I can say. God is so good. And I just want to just say a side note. None of the speakers, we didn't know what we were going to be talking about. And the way that God has literally lined up the topics, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Um, so I'm going to be talking about today identifying what season that you're in and identifying the season of breakthrough. And it's just so perfect how my mom was talking about understanding the power that you have inside of you. And then Mariah talked about birthing the word that God has given you. And in this time, the word that the God has told me, even as I was preparing, was that some people are unaware of the season that they are in right now. They are unaware. And as I was praying to God, I was asking God, okay, they're unaware, but Lord, tell me, what is the season that we're in right now? And what he told me was that we are in a season of breakthrough. With everything that is going on in the world, we're in a season of breakthrough. So I'm all about interaction. So if you feel like you're at the brink of giving up, I want you to type Jesus in the comments. If you feel that you are experiencing lack because you have exhausted all of your resources, if you are feeling desperate, if you are feeling time is running out, if you are feeling like some parts of your life is going well while other parts are not, I want you to type Jesus in the comments. Because if you can relate to this, this is your season of breakthrough. So when we talk about what is breakthrough, um, it is an act or instance of moving through or beyond an obstacle. Okay, so I was doing a little bit of research and I wanted to kind of understand what breakthrough they used the term breakthrough in counseling. And so I kind of wanted to get an understanding of what breakthrough meant in counseling. So I was reading an article, and for one of the sections, it was talking about what does breakthroughs feel like. And this was an exact quote. It said, experiencing a breakthrough confirms that you are on a cusp of changing your life for the better. And the reason why I thought this was so important was because we have to think of the breakthrough as like this transition period to when things get better. And that's how I feel where our personal lives are and also how the world is right now. Right now, we're in a point of breakthrough. So I'm going to be taking first of all, this story with the woman with the issue of blood, this is one of my favorite stories in the Bible. Like every single time, like I talk about it, I read about it, like I start tearing up, and I don't know why I connect with it so much. If you were to ask me, I can't tell you, but it's just such an awesome story. And every single time I read this story, it's like I just get revelation after revelation, and it's always something fresh. So the story that I'm going to be using today is from Mark 5:25-34. So I'm going to read it really quickly for those that may not have read about the woman with the issue of blood. So, and I'm reading from the Amplified Version. A woman in the crowd had suffered from a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much suffering at the hands of many physicians. She had spent all she had and was not helped at all, but instead had become worse. She heard reports about Jesus, and she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his outer robe. For she thought, if I just touch his clothing, I will get well. Immediately, her flow of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body and knew without any doubt that she was healed of her suffering. Immediately, Jesus, recognizing in himself that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my clothes? His disciples, this is my favorite part, his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing in around you from all sides, and you're actually asking who touched me? Still, he kept looking around to see the woman who had done it. And the woman, though she was afraid and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the truth. Then he said to her, daughter, your faith, your personal trust and confidence in me has restored you to health. Go in peace and be permanently healed from your suffering. So I'm going to be pulling out just some key points from that story, because you can do so much with that story, but I'm just going to pull out just some key points in reference to breakthrough. So she suffered with this ailment for 12 years. So what I wanted to tell you from that is there is no specific time frame for you to get your breakthrough. And so what I want to point out to you today is let go of your timetable. Let go of your timetable of when you think things should happen, when you think that there should be a turning point. It's so important that we understand that our timeline and God's timeline and our expectations are different. During that time, God is building your character. During that time, he is bringing godly relationships to you. During that time, things are being exposed about yourself that maybe you need to, go into God. And even in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not unto your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct our paths. So even with myself, I'm actually 26. And it's like we have this timetable of when we're supposed to be getting married, when we're supposed to be doing this, when we're supposed to be doing that. But we have to remember that God's timing is perfect timing. So the second thing that I wanted to point out was she exhausted all of her resources and she was getting worse. So it's like, wait, I spent all my money, I wasted, used all this time, and things are still not getting better. One thing that TD Jakes said is that faith is activated at our limitations. So that means that when we get to that point where there's nothing else that we can do, that's when now our faith is activated. So I wanted to tell you that there will be solutions to situations that are past what we can do and out of reach of what we have access to. And so my mom was talking about before about understanding the power that you have, understanding the supernatural authority that you have. When you are in a breakthrough season, it is so important that you understand the supernatural authority that God has given you. The supernatural can be present through desperation and lack, but only can be activated through faith. Only, let me repeat this one more time. The supernatural can be present through desperation and lack, but only can be activated through faith. That means that when you get to that point that you can't do anymore, God has to bring his super to your natural. So my question to you is, what can happen or be birthed through desperation and lack? Another point that I want to talk about is that she spoke and she believed in her heart. So what I wanted to say to you is that your words and your faith have to correlate. What that means is that you cannot be praying for one thing, but you say and do things that are contrary to your prayers. You need to speak words of life. Speak what God says. And what's so important to me with this story is that she said, I'm gonna read the scripture. For she said, if I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the plague. At this point, I'm gonna try to bring this story. At this point, she went to all the physicians. She used all her resources. At this point, and because of what she was suffering from, she was also deemed unclean. So that means that she probably had relationship ties were cut. She was not allowed into the community. And at this point, she was desperate. At this point, she got to the point where she had access to nothing. She was at her limit. And so God had to supernaturally heal her. But it was because she spoke, but she also believed that if I can just get to Jesus, that I will be healed. So in Matthew 21:21, it says, Jesus replied, truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what was done to the fig tree, but also you can say to this mountain, go, throw yourself into the sea, and it will be done. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. And me personally, I have been dealing with this. So I graduated with my MBA in December, and I have literally been looking for jobs since January. And I was working at a job, but I felt like they were not paying me enough. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to end my contract because I believe that I'm going to find something else. And, a lot of people were saying, Brittany, don't do it. You're in the midst of COVID and da-da-da-da. And I said plenty of days, Mom, I should have just kept my contract. And my mom had to keep reminding me, Brittany, you cannot pray for something, but then speak contrary to what you're praying for. So I want you to think about what are some things that you are praying for? What are some things that you are looking forward to change in your life, and that you are doing and saying things that's contrary to what you desire? So let's practice. So we're going to practice saying what God says. So I'm going to read something, and I just want you to repeat it, and in your own home, just repeat it. I will not worry about my situation because all things are possible with God. I give all my worries and cares to you because I know that you care about me and everything that involves me. God, you are with me during every trial, tribulation, and through every season. I will exchange my fear for faith because I know that I cannot be pleasing before you without faith. I know that I am victorious, and I know that you love me. And one thing that in prayer as well, sometimes we tend to, even in prayer, we tend to say all the things that's going wrong. And one thing that I want to tell you as well is that even when you're in your prayer time, when you feel the urge to want to talk about what's going wrong, talk about what the Lord says to that situation. We're going to start changing the way that we speak. So this is one of the last points that I wanted to bring up, was even in a crowd, he knew her touch. And what's incredible is, as I was reading this, I was like, God, like, okay, so you was in a crowd with all these people. And what got me was when she touched him, that's what got his attention. And even the disciples was like, Lord, like, you're around all these people. What do you mean, who touched you? Everybody's bumping into you. But what was it about her touch that got Jesus' attention? And it's because he knows you. He knows his daughter. He knows his son. And I want to tell you that even in this season where it seems like everything is falling apart, nothing is going right, God sees you, and it is your time to now reach out to him. It is your time to now reach out to Jesus. And the thing is, I think it's so symbolic how even in the crowd, Jesus was able to recognize that virtue was left out of me. And I want to also point out that the relationship that you have is between you and Jesus. You and Jesus. You can't rely on your mom's faith. You can't rely on your grandma's faith. You can't rely on your pastor's faith. You can't rely on your best friend's faith. It's between you and God, and he loves you. And even in this season of breakthrough, he hears your cries. He hears your prayers. And so I just wanted to just encourage you and ask you, think about this question. What will be birthed through this season? What is going to come from you from this season? What can come out of desperation and lack? What can come out of when all of your resources have been exhausted? It is so incredible because I actually had an interview today. Even after months and months of looking for different things, and after people said, Brittany, you won't be able to get anything. And I had an interview today. Now, it wasn't for my ideal job, but it was something. And even in that, I'm going to rejoice and thank God, because there's some people that are out of work. So even in this quarantine, even in what people are saying, even in what the crowds are saying, you have to trust and believe. And anyone who feels like that you are in this season of breakthrough, I pray for you that you are able to identify that season first and start making some changes in your life so that you can prepare for what's on the other side of that breakthrough. And that's all for today. I love you guys.